Welcome, dear friends, to a tale of love tested by doubt, where a chance meeting changes 3 lives forever. Enjoy the story. Alice Thornton sat alone at her elegantly set dining room table, the flickering candlelight casting eerie shadows across her face. She glanced at the ornate clock on the mantel. 8:37 p.m. Their anniversary dinner had gone cold hours ago. With a sigh, Alice reached for the bottle of Cabernet Sauvignon and poured herself another glass. As she swirled the deep red liquid, her wedding ring caught the light, a taunting reminder of happier times. "Happy anniversary to me," she muttered bitterly, taking a long swig of wine. 5 years. 5 years of marriage to Victor Thornton, golden boy of Wall Street, and increasingly stranger in his own home. Alice tried to pinpoint the moment things had changed. Was it the promotion last year? The long hours at the office? Or had the cracks been there all along, masked by the heady rush of young love? The shrill ring of her cell phone cut through her morose musings. Alice glanced at the caller ID and groaned. Mother. Just what she needed to complete this pity party. "Hello, Mother," Alice answered, trying to keep the irritation out of her voice. "Alice, darling, don't tell me you're sitting at home alone again?" Her mother's voice dripped with a mixture of concern and condescension that only Agnes Campbell could achieve. "Victor's working late. You know how it is," Alice replied automatically, the lie tasting bitter on her tongue. "On your anniversary? For heaven's sake, Alice, when are you going to wake up and smell the Chanel No. 5? A man doesn't work this much unless he's trying to avoid something, or someone." Alice felt her cheeks flush with anger and embarrassment. "It's not like that, Mother. Victor's just busy. The market's been crazy and—" "Oh, spare me the excuses," Agnes cut in. "You know, Cynthia Wallace's daughter just caught her husband with his secretary. Had a private investigator follow him and everything. Maybe you should consider—" "I am not hiring a private investigator to follow my husband," Alice snapped, her patience finally breaking. "Victor and I are fine. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have things to do." She hung up before her mother could respond, tossing the phone onto the table with more force than necessary. But as the silence of the empty house settled around her once more, Alice couldn't shake the nagging doubt her mother's words had planted. Was Victor really working late? Or was there another reason for his constant absences? The thought gnawed at her, growing with each tick of the clock. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, Alice stood up abruptly. She'd go to his office, surprise him, bring him some dinner, and maybe salvage what was left of their anniversary, or catch him in a lie. Alice pushed that thought away as she grabbed her coat and keys. It was probably nothing, just her mother's poisonous words getting to her. But as she stepped out into the cold December night, Alice couldn't quite quell the knot of anxiety in her stomach. Little did she know, this impulsive decision was about to change her life forever. The roads were slick with freshly fallen snow, the wipers on Alice's Lexus barely keeping up with the relentless flurries. She gripped the steering wheel tightly, peering through the windshield at the nearly deserted streets of downtown Manhattan. "This is crazy," Alice muttered to herself, but she pressed on, driven by a cocktail of wine, hurt, and suspicion. As she neared Victor's office building, her heart began to race. What would she find? Victor burning the midnight oil, dedicated as always? Or something more sinister? Alice pulled into the parking garage, surprised to find it nearly empty. She made her way to the elevator, her heels clicking ominously in the eerie silence. The doors opened on the 37th floor, and Alice stepped out into darkness. No lights, no sounds of late-night work, nothing. "Victor?" she called out hesitantly, her voice echoing in the empty space. A figure emerged from the shadows, and Alice's heart leapt, only to sink again as she recognized the night security guard. "Mrs. Thornton, what are you doing here so late?" Alice forced a smile. "Oh, I was just bringing Victor some dinner. Is he still here?" The guard shook his head. "Mr. Thornton left hours ago, said he had some personal business to attend to." The words hit Alice like a physical blow. Personal business? On their anniversary? She mumbled her thanks to the guard and fled back to her car, tears stinging her eyes. As she sat behind the wheel, sobs racking her body, all of her mother's insinuations came flooding back. Was Victor really cheating on her? In a haze of hurt and anger, Alice started the car and peeled out of the parking garage. She had no destination in mind. She just knew she couldn't go home to that empty house with its mocking anniversary decorations. The snowstorm had intensified, turning the city into a treacherous winter wonderland. Alice drove aimlessly, her vision blurred by tears and snow. She found herself in an unfamiliar part of town, the streets growing narrower and more run down. Suddenly, a figure darted in front of her car. Alice slammed on the brakes, the Lexus fishtailing on the icy road. She closed her eyes, bracing for impact. When she opened them again, an elderly woman was sprawled on the ground in front of her car. "Oh my God," Alice cried, scrambling out of the vehicle. "Are you all right? I'm so sorry, I didn't see you." The woman stirred, looking up at Alice with eyes that seemed too old for her face. "Why didn't you hit me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Alice blinked in confusion. "What? I didn't mean to almost hit you at all. Here, let me help you up. We need to get you to a hospital." As Alice helped the woman to her feet, she noticed how thin and frail she felt beneath her tattered coat. The woman, Anna, she said her name was, refused to go to the hospital. "No point fixing up an old bag of bones like me," she said with a bitter laugh. A gust of wind cut through them, and Alice made a split-second decision. "Come on," she said, guiding Anna towards her car. "I'm taking you home with me. You need to get warm and have a decent meal." As they drove back to Alice's house, Anna studying her with an unnerving intensity, Alice couldn't help but wonder at the strange turn her night had taken. She'd set out looking for answers about her husband, and instead found, what? A suicidal old woman? A distraction from her own problems? Little did Alice know, this chance encounter was about to unravel everything she thought she knew about her life and her marriage. The grandfather clock in the hallway chimed midnight as Alice ushered Anna into her home. The elderly woman looked around with wide eyes, taking in the tasteful decor and obvious signs of wealth. My, Anna murmured. "Quite a step up from the streets, isn't it?" Alice felt a pang of guilt. "Let's get you warmed up. How about a hot shower and some clean clothes? I think I have some things that might fit you." As Anna showered, Alice busied herself in the kitchen, brewing a pot of chamomile tea and assembling a tray of sandwiches. Her mind was a whirlwind of conflicting emotions: concern for this strange woman she'd brought into her home, lingering anger and hurt over Victor's absence, and a growing sense of surreality about the entire situation. When Anna emerged, wrapped in one of Alice's fluffy bathrobes, she looked like a different person. The dirt and grime washed away. Alice could see the remnants of a once beautiful woman beneath the years of hardship. "Thank you, dear," Anna said, accepting a steaming mug of tea. "It's been a long time since anyone's shown me such kindness." Alice smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "It's the least I could do after almost running you over, though I still think we should get you checked out by a doctor." Anna waved her hand dismissively. "Nonsense. I'm tougher than I look." She took a sip of tea, eyeing Alice over the rim of the mug. "Now, why don't you tell me what a pretty young thing like you was doing driving around in a snowstorm on Christmas Eve?" Alice stiffened. "It's complicated." "Ah," Anna nodded sagely. "Man troubles, is it? Let me guess. Workaholic husband? Always at the office? Maybe you think he's got a bit on the side?" Alice gaped at her. "How did you—" Anna's laugh was a raspy chuckle. "Oh, honey, I've been around the block a few times. I know that look. But let me tell you something about your Victor." Alice's heart skipped a beat. "You know Victor? Know him? He saved my life." Anna's eyes took on a faraway look. "It was about a year ago. I was at my lowest point, hadn't eaten in days. Your Victor, he found me huddled in an alley behind that fancy office building of his. Instead of calling the cops or shooing me away like most folks would, he sat down right there on the dirty ground and talked to me. Bought me a hot meal and set me up in a shelter." Alice listened, stunned, as Anna recounted tale after tale of Victor's secret good deeds, how he volunteered at soup kitchens every weekend, how he was working to set up a foundation to help the homeless get back on their feet, how he'd been keeping it all secret because he didn't want it to seem like some rich man's vanity project. "But Why wouldn't he tell me? Alice whispered, tears streaming down her face. Anna reached out, patting Alice's hand. Some men, they don't know how to talk about the good they do. They think it makes them seem weak or something. But you're Victor. He's one of the good ones. Don't let him go without a fight, you hear me? As if on cue, the front door opened, and Victor's voice called out, Alice, are you home? I'm so sorry I'm late. He stopped short as he entered the living room, taking in the scene before him. Anna, what are you doing here? Alice stood up slowly, her eyes never leaving Victor's face. I think, she said softly, that you and I have a lot to talk about. Victor's eyes darted between Alice and Anna, a mix of confusion and concern etched on his handsome face. Alice, honey, I can explain. You're damn right you can explain. Alice cut him off, her voice trembling with a cocktail of emotions, relief, anger, love, and lingering hurt. You can start by telling me why you've been lying to me for months about where you've been spending your time. Victor's shoulders sagged, the weight of his secrets finally catching up to him. He sank into an armchair, running a hand through his salt and pepper hair. I never meant to lie to you, Alice. I didn't know how to tell you about all of this. As Victor began to speak, the whole story came pouring out. How he'd stumbled upon Anna that fateful night a year ago, how her plight had opened his eyes to the invisible suffering on the streets of their glittering city. He spoke of sleepless nights, grappling with the guilt of his own wealth and privilege, while others froze on the sidewalks outside his office. I wanted to make a difference, Victor said, his voice thick with emotion. But I didn't want it to be about me, about some rich guy trying to assuage his conscience. I thought if I kept it quiet, if I just did the work without any fanfare, it would mean more. Alice listened, her heart swelling with a complicated mix of pride and pain. But why keep it from me? She asked. Did you think I wouldn't understand? That I wouldn't want to help? Victor looked at her, his eyes shining with unshed tears. No, it wasn't that. I guess I was ashamed that I'd been so blind for so long, that it took meeting Anna to wake me up to what was happening right under our noses. And then, the more time passed, the harder it became to find the right moment to tell you. Anna, who had been silently watching this exchange, finally spoke up. If you ask me, you two have got something special here. Don't let a little misunderstanding tear it apart. Alice turned to the older woman, a small smile tugging at her lips. You know, for someone who was ready to end it all a few hours ago, you give pretty good advice. Anna shrugged, a mischievous glint in her eye. Well, maybe I just needed a reminder that there are still good people in this world. Now, if you two lovebirds don't mind, this old lady could use some shut-eye. Point me to the guest room, will you? As Alice showed Anna to the spare bedroom, Victor busied himself in the kitchen, brewing a fresh pot of coffee. When Alice returned, she found him standing by the window, staring out at the snow-covered street. I'm so sorry, Alice, he said without turning around. I never meant to hurt you. I love you more than anything in this world. Alice crossed the room, wrapping her arms around him from behind. She rested her cheek against his back, breathing in the familiar scent of his cologne. I love you too, Victor. And I'm proud of you, so incredibly proud. I just wish you had let me in, let me be a part of it. Victor turned in her embrace, cupping her face in his hands. Then be a part of it now. Help me with the foundation. We can do this together. Make a real difference. As they sealed their reconciliation with a kiss, the grandfather clock chimed 3 a.m. Outside, the snow continued to fall, blanketing the city in a soft, forgiving white. The next few days passed in a whirlwind of activity. With Anna's help, Alice and Victor were able to sort out her documentation and find her a place in a comfortable retirement home. As they helped her move into her new room, Alice marveled at the transformation in the older woman. Clean, well-fed, and with a spark of hope in her eyes, Anna looked years younger. Now don't you two be strangers, Anna admonished as they prepared to leave. I expect regular visits, you hear? And bring that foundation paperwork next time. I've got a few ideas of my own to contribute. Alice laughed, pulling Anna into a warm hug. We'll be back before you know it. And thank you, Anna, for everything. As they drove home, Alice's phone buzzed with an incoming call. She glanced at the screen and groaned. It's my mother, again. Victor raised an eyebrow. You going to answer it? Alice hesitated for a moment, then decisively pressed the ignore button. No, I don't think I will. How about we go out for dinner instead? Celebrate our belated anniversary properly. Victor's face lit up with a boyish grin that made Alice's heart skip a beat. I know just the place, but first, we need to make a quick stop. An hour later, Alice found herself ladling out soup at a homeless shelter, Victor by her side. As she looked around at the grateful faces of those they were serving, she felt a warmth spread through her chest. This, she realized, was what had been missing from their life together. A sense of purpose beyond the next big deal or social event. That night, as they finally sat down to their anniversary dinner at a cozy Italian restaurant, Alice raised her glass of wine. To new beginnings, she toasted, and to remembering what really matters. Victor clinked his glass against hers, his eyes shining with love and gratitude. To us, he added softly, and to the family we're going to build, both at home and out there in the world. As they talked late into the night, making plans for the foundation and their future, Alice felt a sense of excitement she hadn't experienced in years. They were embarking on a new chapter together, one filled with purpose and compassion. Little did they know, the biggest adventure of all was just around the corner. 1 year later, Alice waddled down the hallway of the retirement home, one hand supporting her very pregnant belly, the other clutching a bouquet of bright yellow daisies. Victor followed close behind, carrying their picnic basket. Anna, Alice called out as they approached the familiar door. Are you ready for our Sunday outing? The door flew open, revealing Anna dressed in a jaunty sun hat and a floral dress. There you are! I was beginning to think you'd forgotten about little old me. Victor chuckled, bending down to give Anna a peck on the cheek. As if we could ever forget our favorite troublemaker. You look lovely, Anna. Anna preened a bit at the compliment, adjusting her hat. Well, when you're going out with such a handsome young couple, you've got to make an effort. Now, let's get this show on the road before Alice here pops. As they made their way to the retirement home's garden, Alice couldn't help but marvel at how much had changed in just 1 year. The foundation she and Victor had started was thriving, already making a real difference in the lives of the city's homeless population. Their marriage was stronger than ever, the shared purpose bringing them closer together in ways she never could have imagined. And now, with their first child due any day, Alice felt a sense of completeness she'd never known before. They settled on a bench beneath a sprawling oak tree, Victor unpacking their picnic while Anna fussed over Alice. Now you make sure you're eating enough, dear, Anna clucked. That little one needs all the nourishment it can get. Alice laughed, patting her round belly. Trust me, Anna, this baby is very well fed. In fact, I think it might be trying out for the soccer team right now. As if on cue, a powerful kick made Alice wince. Anna's eyes lit up with delight. Ooh, can I feel? Alice guided Anna's wrinkled hand to the spot, and the older woman's face softened with wonder as she felt the baby move. You know, Anna said softly, I never had children of my own, but watching you two, seeing the love you have for each other and for this little one, well, it makes me feel like I'm part of something special. Victor reached out, squeezing Anna's shoulder gently. You are part of something special, Anna. Your family. And this little one is going to grow up knowing their Grandma Anna. Tears glistened in Anna's eyes. Grandma Anna, she repeated, her voice thick with emotion. I like the sound of that. As they enjoyed their picnic, sharing stories and laughter, Alice felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the summer sun. This, she realized, was what true happiness felt like. Not the superficial glitz and glamour of their old life, but the deep, abiding joy of genuine connection and purpose.